Hey everybody, welcome to Crack a Pack Tuesday number 59 on the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and we've got ourselves another pack of Shadows over Innistrad. We have, I believe, 5 weeks left, and then we'll be into Eldritch Moon. But we're going to open this pack while we have it right now and figure out what we would take pack one, pick one if this was a draft. And hope that this will be better than the previous two Crack a Packs. Last week especially was miserably bad. Let's see if we get better. Hopefully our first common is good. It's not. Militant Inquisitor, 2 and white for a 2/3 creature human cleric. Gets +1/+0 for each equipment you control. I think we've had this for the last 2, maybe even 3 weeks in a row. Not a good card, not a first pickable card. You can main deck it if you really want to. It gets ever so slightly better if you're playing a Neglected Heirloom and a True Faith Sense or something like that. But not a first pick, not in the discussion. Next up, we've got a Storm Rider Spirit. Storm Rider Spirit is 4 and a blue for a creature spirit. It's a 3/3. It's got flash. It's got flying. It's a little bit expensive, and it's also in the worst color in the set. If blue was a little bit better, this might be a little bit better. If this was Nephalia Seakite, so if it was a 2/3 flash flyer for 4, it would have been better. But Storm Rider Spirit has unfortunately missed the mark a little bit. Not necessarily just because of itself, but also because of the format with blue. So I'm kind of out on it. Definitely not a first pick. If I'm in blue, I'll play it, but I don't want to be in blue usually. Next up, we have Stern Constable. Stern Constable is a single white mana for a creature human soldier. It's a 1/1. You can tap it and discard a card to tap target creature. It's just not that good. Tappers need to have a low cost, and discarding a card is a cost, especially when you're in white, which has 0 madness cards. So your other color needs to be where your madness is hiding. So don't really expect that you're going to be the super awesome madness deck if you're playing a bunch of Stern Constables, because you're just not going to be the super awesome madness deck. He has some use. I have played him, and I have gotten some good use out of him, but it's few and far between. Certainly not a first pick. Next up, we have True Faith Sensor. True Faith Sensor is 2 generic mana for an artifact equipment. The equip cost is 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. As long as the equipped creature is a human, it gets an additional +1/+0, so it gets +2/+1. This is a fine enough piece of equipment. It's low impact enough that you could play this if you're not in a human deck. I generally do not. If I'm in a human deck, it gets a lot better. +2/+1 in vigilance for two cast and two equip is fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. Totally playable. I'll play the first one for sure if I'm playing a humans deck. Even if I'm playing kind of half a humans deck, I might think of it. However, I'm never going to first pick it. Next up, we have Quilled Wolf. Quilled Wolf is 1 and a green for a creature wolf. It's a 2/2. You can pay 5 and a green to give it +4/+4 until end of turn. So you can make it a 6/6 for a chunk of mana. Yeah, this guy's fine. He's totally fine because he's good on turn 2 and he's good on turn 8. He's good everywhere. Plus, he's got wolf synergies with Howlpack Resurgence, stuff like that. I'm always happy with the first Quilled Wolf, and I'm usually pretty happy with the second one. Just based on my history the past few weeks with these packs, we'll keep this in the running for first pick for now, but hopefully this pack's better. Merciless Resolve, 2 and black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Merciless Resolve, sacrifice a creature or a land. Draw 2 cards. Not very good. I've seen some people play it, and I think I maybe even played it once. It's fine. It's just not great. If you can get some sacrifice synergies out of it, cool, but that's usually just a little bit too cute for draft. You're going to get run over before the time all the stars align, and you actually get maximum value out of this. It's a fine enough 23rd card if you have to play it, but it's certainly not a first pick. And I just dropped a card. And headbutted the tripod for the camera. We have a Hulking Devil. Probably could have just stayed on the floor. 3 and a red for a creature devil. It's a 5/2. Nothing else going on here. This dies to everything. This dies to things that cost 2 mana. This dies to some things that cost 1 mana. You don't want to be jumping or pumping a whole bunch of mana into this only to have it die for no real effort from your opponent. Hulking Devil is bad. You should basically never play it. Certainly not a first pick. Up next, we have Thornhide Wolves. Thornhide Wolves is 4 and a green for a creature wolf. It's a 4/5, vanilla, just like Hulking Devil. Not a first pick card. Generally not looking to play it. I will if I have to, but it's starting to get a little bit high on the curve with not enough impact for me to be happy with it. But yeah, not a first pick. All right, last common. We've got Murderous Compulsion. I think this is the first piece of removal we've seen in 2 weeks. Or 3 weeks even. Murderous Compulsion. 1 and a black for a sorcery. Destroy target tapped creature. That is very relevant. Madness for 1 and a black. So you can instant speed it if you can discard it somehow. Creatures aren't always tapped. They are simply not always tapped, meaning that this spell does literally nothing sometimes. Luckily, it's on enough that this is a fine removal spell. I certainly do like it more than I like Reduced Ashes or Throttle, but it's also nowhere near Fiery Temper or things like that. It's fine and it's first pickable. I have and will continue to first pick it, but it does indicate to me that there was no better removal in the pack. So Murderous Compulsion, certainly in consideration for the first pick. On to the uncommons, we've got ourselves a Broken Concentration. Broken Concentration, 1 blue for an instant counter target spell. You can Madness it for 3 and a blue, so you can pay more for Madness, but you don't have to pay 2 blue. The times that that's going to come up are so few and far between. I'd be shocked if you've ever personally seen it matter. This is just cancel, and cancel is just not a card that you really play in draft or pick. Certainly not first pick. Next up, we've got Groundskeeper. Groundskeeper is a single green for a human druid. It's a 1/1. It's 1 and a green. Return target basic land card from your graveyard to your hand. There's some definite synergies here. This isn't quite the F that I think I gave it in the set review, but this card also will not make the top 10 cards I was wrong about because, well, it's not an F. I don't think it's any better than a D+, maybe a C-. It's a 1/1 for 1 that has some very mild synergies with some very specific decks, generally which focus around specific rares that you may not even see. So Groundskeeper is just not something you should ever consider first picking. Our final uncommon is Pale Rider of Trostad. Pale Rider of Trostad, 1 and a black for a creature spirit, 3/3 Skulk. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card. I was high on this guy for a while, and I think I maybe even first picked him. But I've really started to come down on him. You want him on turn 2, but you're going to have to discard something that you cannot Madness out because you're going to be using all your mana. So then you don't cast this guy until turn 3 so that you can cast your Fiery Temper with Madness. So then you've lost tempo and this guy's no longer quite as good on turn 3. The Skulk doesn't really come into play. Pale Rider's just fallen off a whole lot. I would still consider picking it in a weak pack, but I wouldn't consider first picking it compared to either of these at all. So Pale Rider gets knocked out. Our rare is Avacyn's Judgment, so we get another piece of removal. 1 and a red for a sorcery. Avacyn's Judgment deals 2 damage, divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. So technically you could choose 10 creatures and still just do 2 damage, 1 to each of them, or 2 to 1. But in addition, you could Madness this out for X and a red, and if you do, you divide X damage among any number of creatures and or players instead. Avacyn's Judgment is a fine piece of removal. Obviously, if you don't have Madness, it's just a shock, but it's a shock that you can divide, so I guess it's a twin shot, whatever it was called. If you can Madness this, then it becomes Fireball. Even better than Fireball, arguably, because it's instant speed with Madness, and you don't have to pay per target. It's free per target. Avacyn's Judgment is just a fantastic piece of removal. It's not quite Burn from Within, which I think I like a little bit more. Avacyn's Judgment, super solid. Definitely in the running. We have one flip card this week. We have an Accursed Witch. 3 and a black for a 4/2 spells your opponent's cast that... let's start over. Spells your opponent's cast that target Accursed Witch cost 1 less to cast. When Accursed Witch dies, return it to the battlefield transformed under your control attached to target opponent. It becomes an infectious curse. Enchant player, spells you cast that target enchanted player cost 1 less to cast. That's very rarely relevant. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. That's much more relevant. Accursed Witch, I wasn't super high on to begin with. A lot of people were. I think a lot of people were correct. I don't think anybody was too high on this. I think I was just too low. It's definitely better than I gave it credit for. It may or may not make the top 10 list of cards I was wrong about. We'll have to see. Cursed Witch, I would be okay first picking it. And in fact, I think we can just kick the Quilled Wolf out right now. I think we're looking at Murderous Compulsion, Avacyn's Judgment, or Accursed Witch. And it's really kind of your preference. Do you want creatures or do you want removal? I typically tend to go towards removal, so I think Avacyn's Judgment has to be the pick for me. I wouldn't really fault anybody for taking the Accursed Witch, though. Let me know what you would have taken in the comments down below. Would you have taken the Witch, the Compulsion, the Judgment? Would you have taken something else? Let me know. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/TheManaLeak, as well as Twitch at twitch.tv/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got that comment section down below. Please make use of it. As well, if you enjoy my videos, click that little thumbs up icon to let me know that you like the video and to let YouTube know that you like it. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. There's a link below each video. There's one in the outro of each video, and clicking that will keep you posted on all the latest videos as they go up. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.